My name is Shawn Saunders with Ramos Law. I am a retired Denver police officer. I spent just over 28 years with them. Today we're going to be talking about a case that you may or may not be familiar with, but I think most of you are, and that is the murder of JonBenét Ramsey. That murder happened in December of 1996. John and Patsy Ramsey, they have two kids, Burke and JonBenét. Burke was 9 years old and JonBenét was 6 years old. They lived in a very upscale part of Boulder, Colorado. On Christmas Day, the family had their normal Christmas events, seeing friends and family. They went to bed on Christmas night with the plans of being up early to continue on with some Christmas celebrations. Patsy Ramsey gets up about 5:30 in the morning and walks downstairs to get coffee and start for the day. And as she's mingling about in the kitchen, she discovers a note laying on the steps of a staircase that leads from the kitchen to the second level. And in the letter, it was a ransom demand for $118,000 to know about the whereabouts of their daughter, JonBenét Ramsey. She rushes upstairs, starts looking around for JonBenét. She's nowhere to be found. She gets her husband up and they start frantically panicking and not finding the kid.
Police, what's going on? 5515th Street. What's going on there, ma'am? We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please. Explain to me what's going on, okay?
They start calling some friends and family. They start showing up. This is where things start getting a little bit muddled or muddy with the circumstances of what should and shouldn't be done. Once the police do arrive, they start speaking with the family. There is really no searching of the home or the property or anything that's really conducted. The police kind of make the mention of, hey, did you look around for her? Did you find her? And they're all saying yes, but there's no real search. Now, coming from a background in law enforcement, when we have missing persons, especially missing children cases, the very, very first thing we do is secure the last known place they're at, which is usually the home. Nobody in or out of the house, and then we, as police officers, do the search of the house. We look in every nook and cranny we can find. A lot of times you're going to find a kid hiding in the laundry room or under a pile of clothes, under a bed. There's a number of things that can be done. And then we start looking for any signs of foul play. Forced entry, signs of a fight, signs of broken furniture or items around. That's going to be something more to it than just a missing kid. Based on that, if we don't find anything, that's when we're going to start spreading out our search, but still maintaining the original location or crime scene or however you want to call it, because it's going to be a crime scene until we determine it's not. But what is allowed in the Ramsey home is friends, family, ministers, name it. They're in and out of the house, bringing in food and just walking freely through the house, using the restrooms, walking through different rooms, and there's no monitoring of the police at all in this. This causes a big, big issue for evidentiary value, because if there were to be a suspect arrested or charged with this, this is going to be a huge contention in court as to tainting any evidence or possibility of any evidence being tainted by any of these number of people that walk through the house. One of the police officers say, hey, let's do a really good search of your home. John Ramsey and a couple of their friends kind of split up where they're going to look. John Ramsey decides he's going to do the basement. He goes down to the basement and immediately walks into a room that's also like a wine cellar storage room for them. And there he discovers the body of 6-year-old JonBenét Ramsey, duct taped and bound, and a garrote around her neck. He picks up his daughter and carries her upstairs to the landing of the stairs and lays her on the floor. Now, I'm never going to speak as for a father, what a father would do or what I would do if that was my daughter. But again, this causes issue later down the road that he picked up JonBenét and carried her upstairs. Disturbed, evidence. And now they decide to make the home a crime scene. A little too late. So this is going to be a contention down the road. JonBenét is transported to the coroner's office, and the autopsy reveals that she died of a skull fracture and strangulation. And that's from the garrote using a broken paintbrush and a rope around her neck and tightened up. The autopsy did not find any evidence of sexual assault. However, there was signs of prior sexual abuse. To this day, that's never really been defined of what that means, but there's just some indication that there could have been some sexual abuse either from this incident or prior. What meal did JonBenét last eat? Being a 6-year-old, you would think the parents would have a pretty good idea what they fed their child. So they told her it was a basic meal, but one of the things found in the autopsy in JonBenét's stomach was pineapple. Pineapple was not mentioned as being given any type of food that she ate before bed, indicating that sometime after she was put in bed, she probably had pineapple at some point. Now, who gave her that pineapple? That's going to be the question. We don't know. One of the key factors in this ransom note was $118,000. The thing with this number one, who asked for $118,000? 100,000, 200,000, a million. It's usually like some type of even number, not 118,000. That's kind of odd. However, this was the amount of John Ramsey's Christmas bonus that he just received from his company. That threw a lot of speculation that somebody had to know what that bonus was, hinting at it might be the family. They did handwriting exemplars with mom and dad. Dad was ruled out. Mom's was not ruled out, but not likely of her either. It was just one of those things that they didn't get any information off, and there was no prints on it. As far as I know, that kind of died out after that. There is no signs of forced entry. There's no evidence outside of anybody like standing in the ground by the windows with footprints or anything. The only thing they do find is in the room where JonBenét was found was a window pane was broken. The funny thing with this is if somebody's trying to break into that room, you would think the glass would fall into the house, but there's some indication that the glass was found outside the house, meaning it was broken from the inside. When they're doing their initial interviews, who they're going to talk to first, coming from law enforcement, is going to be mom and dad. They were very reluctant to talk to law enforcement. They were very standoffish and requesting attorneys and things like that. Made it very, very difficult for law enforcement to do their job. And this went on for several weeks until they finally agreed to sit down and do interviews with the police. This started becoming a huge national case because of the status of the Ramseys, the wealth, and the fact that Patsy Ramsey is a prior beauty queen from the East Coast, and in fact she put JonBenét Ramsey into beauty pageants as a 5 and 6-year-old, which caused some uproar in the community because of how these pageants allegedly are ran. And so it might have sparked some interest with tabloids across the country. And so with that comes hundreds upon thousands of tips coming in to the tip line. And believe it or not, just like you hear on TV, the police actually do have to respond to every single tip. They have to do something. So trying to filter through all these tips made it very, very challenging. Boulder PD, it's not a small agency, but they're not a huge agency. And they're definitely not the homicide capital or very knowledgeable with homicides, as they don't have very many. There was a lot of requests that came in from outside agencies, including Denver Police, Aurora Police, CBI, a number of agencies, including the federal agencies, wanting to help with this, and all was refused. I don't know if it was an ego thing or what it was, but it made a lot of contention between the agencies in the area that wanted to help, and Boulder was not allowing them to help. And in fact, Boulder Police and the Boulder County DAs were actually at odds as well. Boulder started having more infighting amongst the assigned detectives, and they kept on reassigning detectives, pulling a detective off, putting another detective on it. And so it was a lot of back and forth, and nobody knows what's going on. And there was just thousands upon thousands pieces of document and evidence that was coming in that they couldn't evaluate in a timely manner. Case went all the way through until 1999. of going back and forth. And in 1999, the Boulder County DA decided to convene a grand jury.
A grand jury that may eventually hear evidence in the JonBenét Ramsey murder investigation was selected in Boulder, Colorado on Wednesday, but after nearly a year and a half of intense media coverage of the 6-year-old's death.
During that grand jury, it came back as what they call a true bill that John and Patsy Ramsey should be indicted for child abuse resulting in death. Because it's been one of the contentions that all along that they were involved with this somehow, and that they may have either accidentally killed JonBenét or something happened during the scuffle that killed JonBenét. They're not really sure, but there's been speculation that there might have been some sexual abuse going on, that Patsy found out, or that the brother Burke was involved in some way. So that's how this true bill came back. Grand juries can be very misleading because they only hear the information that the district attorney wants to present. There's no defense attorney there. There's nobody telling them they can't ask it. And so it can be very, very subjective to what is done. That grand jury was completely pressured. The DA took pressure from the community, and then the DA did not get the assistance with the Boulder Police Department for the grand jury. So again, you had a lot of inner fighting amongst each other, and that record is still sealed. It's never been opened to know exactly what was said on that.
Finally, the DA came forward with the long-awaited news.
The DA decided not to, even though they had a true bill, decided not to indict John and Patsy Ramsey.
The Boulder grand jury has completed its work. No charges have been filed.
The headline said it all. The nation was stumped. John and Patsy Ramsey would not be charged.
And again, case kind of goes cold. Some years later, Patsy Ramsey develops ovarian cancer and she passes away. John Ramsey and Burke moved back to the Atlanta, Georgia area, and John Ramsey actually remarries. And the case remains unsolved and cold again. And then the next takeaway from this is that it sat dormant for over 10 years with nobody working on this case and nobody doing anything. And the longer it goes, the harder it's going to be for a case to be resolved. Still comes up in the media. It was just a documentary that was just recently put out where John Ramsey and one of his sons really dive into this case.
Tonight, the Boulder Police Department has a new police chief.
In December 23, Boulder Police Department hired a new police chief, Steve Redford. Steve's an ex-Aurora police officer and came from the streets straight up through the ranks and made it to Boulder. And I know Steve very well, and he is a cop. So he wants to do the right thing. And so with that, he emphasized the importance of solving this case and even reached out to John Ramsey and kind of reopened this investigation.
New tonight, JonBenét Ramsey's father says he's feeling encouraged after sitting down with Boulder's new police chief for the first time on Monday.
I do know that there is some testing with the DNA process going on and that there has been some developments in that. However, they're not releasing that. They're not talking about that until I think they have some pretty concrete evidence so they don't make the same mistakes they did before and leaking information to the media and to the public that would just taint the case.
A former Denver police detective who assisted in the JonBenét Ramsey murder case has died.
Sadly, one of the investigators with the DA's office, Tom Haney Jr., passed away recently, within a week ago. Tom was a retired division chief at Denver Police, was one of my division chiefs, great guy, great cop, and he was the spearhead in leading the JonBenét Ramsey case for the last several years. And now with his passing, as a sudden passing, it's going to be a detriment to Boulder Police Department with moving forward with this case. There's also a private investigation going on with, her name is Cindy Mara. She's a daughter of an investigator that worked with Tom Haney, that kind of was on the sidelines with him through the investigation. So she is going to continue working on the investigation.
It's the haunting last video of little JonBenét Ramsey singing "Rocking Around the Christmas Tree." The date is December 22nd, 1996, just 3 days before she was brutally murdered. She's performing at a local mall where she plays a toy saxophone and gets a warm round of applause from the shoppers.
As of today, this case is still open, still unsolved, And it's going to be something that I want to call a perfect storm for a criminal. And what I mean by that is we had a compromised crime scene. The forensic recovery of any evidence was completely tainted. The hundreds and hundreds of theories of who did it, who didn't do it. Was it family? Was it an intruder? Was it an employee? Was it somebody working at the house? There's a ton of theories out there. There was even one guy that confessed to this, but he was ruled out with DNA, and it was just a hoax on this part because of the national attention's against. And one of the biggest problems that they had with this case is that in 1999, when they had a true bill to indict, they should have indicted, and they didn't do it. That's why the case, even today, I think if they ever did come up with a case, I think it's going to be a very, very strong possibility that whoever they do decide to charge with this case, it's going to be a long legal battle ahead, and it's going to be more in favor of them than it is going to be for JonBenét Ramsey. I hope that with Steve Redfern in command over there and putting things together that they do come up with a closure soon. Otherwise, I'm afraid that this case is going to be one that goes down in history as never been solved.